Okay, so Verbal Nonsense, the official episode 1, and we're going for the theme of the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's fucked.
well,
Done episode cut.
let me ask the question. But yeah, a bit of context then. The world is on fire. Species are dying. Food's running out.
Yeah.
Water's polluted. We're chucking all of our plastic crap into the sea. Should we place a tally? Who reckons we're fucked? That's my question. Can we pull back? Can we reverse the clock, suck CO2 out of the atmosphere?
Yes.
And can we actually move to a better future?
It's doable. It's definitely doable, but whether people actually
This-
are going to or fund it is the other question.
So this actually links directly to my question later, and it's hard to give my answer without talking about that. But in terms of the aspects you're on about, in terms of like the pollution, fires and stuff like that, I think one thing, especially because Australia at the moment has had a lot of forest fires, that always happens every year. It's just this year's been worse.
It's completely swamped most.
And
of
now
the population.
it's completely flooded.
It's flooded now.
Yeah,
I hadn't
Australia,
heard
because the trees aren't there to stop the rain, which happened with the downpour, so it's completely flooded. And also they're getting hailstones, which are big enough and strong enough, which are smashing windscreens.
Yeah, there's some golf balls. I've seen those.
It's the weather's always been a bit like that in Australia, the extreme side of things. Can we pull back the pollution though? Yes, we can. But
all forms of pollution.
however, no, because of my question later on.
Okay, so I'll try not to dig too much.
Yeah.
I think one of the most exciting things I've seen is there's this company in the States that is sucking mainly CO2 out of the atmosphere, separating it from everything else that's sucking out through a chemical reaction, combining that with oxygen, or combining that with something, I don't want to misquote it, and what the end product is a completely green fuel that is chemically identical to fuel we're using now.
That's really good. I didn't know they could turn it to fuel.
And they can convert any current car to work with that system.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That is good.
Like that's good to go.
What's the cost of it though to produce?
I don't know. Vice has covered it though, and they said that they would to. I don't know if it was to supply the world. I guess it would all be part of the same thing, but to suck enough CO2 out of the atmosphere, and I guess to also meet the world's demand, you would need less facilities than you would need power stations in the world. So you could just dot them all around the country, all around the world, and just start sucking air out.
That is good.
Fair.
It's all what is it now? What is it when you're like changing a planet, terraforming? We're moving into the realm now of being able to play with our atmospheres.
Interesting point actually. I was reading something the other day, and I think it was someone in NASA said it would be really interesting that in the next however many years they plan to terraform a planet so people can move there. And someone said, well, why don't we just actually look after our own planet
What I was going to
rather
say,
than thinking about terraforming a completely different planet?
link to that is Elon Musk said something the other day. Said that by 2050 he wants to get 1 million people to Mars.
I think that's what it was. And on top of that, it led to that. I think that's what it was actually.
Like the math of it, if he's going to do that, it's going to have to be like 3 rockets sending some people a day to Mars. How is he going to do that?
Reusable rockets.
Yeah, but still, how long does it take to get to Mars at current?
It's like 30 years or something.
Yeah.
I think the way they're developing systems now, they're getting it down to months. They haven't fully tested it, so I don't want to misquote exactly what it is, but it's I think it's something to do with it's electronic based engines now that through some sort of reaction just propels things out, which is creating the momentum forward, and they've been making a lot. I don't know if it's NASA, I would imagine Tesla's doing something similar as well.
SpaceX.
Yeah, same thing. But that's where people are moving to now. So like, for example, satellites are currently using the technology to just give them a slight push, because it doesn't take much, but to get up to speed to actually make a considerable distance, that's when they're trying to develop that into something stronger now.
If you had the choice to go to Mars, would you?
No.
What about you?
Yes.
You would? I would too.
Why?
Get away from the shithole, but still.
To another shithole?
Yeah. Well, it'd be
Bro,
like,
come on. No.
it'd be
no,
more
no.
satisfying than this one, because then you could think about this could be something new instead of just that same old shit.
No.
Yeah, I think.
No, because you'd get there and you'd have to wear a suit just to step outside.
It's the ultimate holiday.
Exactly.
Come on. It's not a holiday, mate. You've got to work to stay alive.
No, but you have
So
to.
you
You
can't-
have to work to go on holiday anyway. Like I don't know. There's something. There's a pull to like pioneering something, isn't there?
Mhm.
Like being the first people to potentially colonize another planet. It could go all wrong and we could all die horribly.
I think I'd consider it if they actually do perfect it where they can take people but bring them back. Because if it was a one-way trip, fuck no.
I would.
I think I'd do
Imagine
it.
I'd be bored
one
of
of
my
the
box,
first
mate.
people to die on Mars. That'd be sick.
From alcohol poisoning.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
imagine the first person to have a sesh on the on Mars.
yes.
Yeah, you got it. First person to have a sesh on Mars, that's what you're thinking about? What if you had like a water shortage, you wake up with the worst fucking hangover, just like, oh, bastard.
Yeah. I think the thing is, before anyone thinks about terraforming and stuff like that, we need to solve out our own
At
planet's
least we've
issues.
got something to come back to if something fails.
Yeah, I think it's all going to go in. Everything is going to develop at the same rate because people are going to. We're not just going to stop trying to get to another planet, and we're not going to just leave this one. So as people are trying to progress out, other people are trying to make change within because it's just different industries. Because you can't just. Not everyone is going to be putting 100% into one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if there is any chance for the planet, I think it'll happen. And we'll still be making progress to step onto other worlds. What would you? Okay, so you've just landed on Mars. Like, what are you there for? What's your biggest excitement? Do you reckon? Because like you
Exploration.
exploration.
discovery.
Okay, but the limitations I feel outweigh the actual.
It's very limited. It'd be very difficult. It'd be very
Because it's not like you're
hard.
stepping into America for the first time.
No, you'd only be able to go in a confined area,
Yeah.
basically, unless the planet is terraformed beforehand, which it probably wouldn't be. Because
And what if you put with what if the community is just full of ourselves? And then you're stuck on a rock. Do you know what I mean? Like, because we've all
It would
been
be
there,
full of
stuck in
it-
situations like that. And what if there's just one wanker, and you're all just like, should we just fucking eat him? Like, come on, I'm getting bored of these potatoes.
you watch too many films. It would be really boring because, as a normal civilian, you'd probably get there and things have already been set up for you to get there, and it would just be like a lot of scientists and stuff like that to begin with. If you're talking about the first, just normal civilian people, it'd be people who are running the planet, and you'd probably, it wouldn't be as good as living on Earth because you couldn't go on walks, you could go abroad.
There'd be no Weatherspoons.
Oh.
So are we talking about the situation?
I'd open the chain, that'd be my job, putting the spoons.
Call it
So-
exactly the same thing.
Would we be
Moving
going
the
there
water.
when it's already sort of livable, or would it be like we'll go there to set it up to be from?
Well, realistically, in our lifetime, we'll be coming on to some old cronies anyway by the time it's possible for us to get up there.
I think if someone said to me tomorrow, do you want to go now to be one of the first people on Mars to set up the whole thing? Yes. However, in 30 years, do you want to go to Mars to go somewhere where it's already set up and there's a few people there, been living there for 20 years, and there's a bit of a thing set up, like community? Probably not. It's just not as appealing then.
Really.
Whereas if you're one of the first people on that planet, then yes. But then I really don't have the skill set to be there. So.
Yeah, that's right. I'd be going for the experience. So if I had an opportunity, I'd be going for the experience of this is Mars. It's maybe a bit established, so it's not people's lives aren't going to rest on my expertise.
Or maybe it should be a nice place to go die. Like I'm 80 years.
No.
I'm 80 years old. Fuck it, let's die on Mars. Let's go there. Never been to another planet before.
Imagine if you die on the way. How sad would that be? You don't even make it there.
Your soul's trapped where you
Oh
die.
no!
It's it's just there.
There's some poor person sitting next to me in a spacesuit and I'm dead. They're like,
God, he's sleeping. Oh, what was he trying to say? there?
Houston, Cohen has not woken up.
knowing Corny would have probably gone out on a sesh the night before. That's funny. Okay. They try and cast his body out to space, only to realise that he's actually just really hungover.
He opens his eyes as about to open airlock.
Yeah.
He's like, no!
What would be cool actually, if I did have the chance to go, just thinking career-wise, it'd be cool to be the first videographer on Mars. Shoot some.
And robots already doing that though.
Yeah, but like
From here.
wouldn't be the first camera on Mars, but at least first movie on Mars, first sort of
First podcast on Mars.
yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, where do you think technology is going to sort of make that next leap forward? What area do you think is going to happen in? I mean, we've already got like self-driving electric cars already. They just need to be get more defined.
That's interesting you say that. I've been watching this thing on YouTube recently. It's like a YouTube original. It's all about AI. Super inspiring. It's like, because there's obviously that fear about AI. AI is just a calculator. And it looks intelligent because it's really good at what you're telling it to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people are going to start to realise is that, like, as we get robots, as we get all these different techs, AI isn't that scary because it's not being told to do anything scary. It does exactly what you tell it to do, and it isn't capable of doing anything it's not. So there's going to be a difference between artificial intelligence and artificial consciousness. Because what we're scared of is some self-aware thing that looks at us and been like, yeah, I don't really like my parents, bang.
Skynet.
Yeah, or something worse. Because let's be honest, there's much more efficient ways to wipe out the population than robots going around to killing people.
I think it's going to be something to do with sustainability. I go back to Dan's question about can we save it? The only way to save it will be technology.
Right.
It's just that the biggest areas of technology at the moment are all for entertainment purposes. Like smartphones, TVs, that's the biggest tech area.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's getting to the point now it can only make tiny little improvements, but those tiny little improvements will take a lot. So I think that will become far less profitable to do that. So that will stagnate. So for tech, I think it'll be things like more effective solar panels, better electric cars, stuff like that. Or the other side of improvement could be medical procedures. So like new ways of curing cancer or things like that, or like new methods to do surgery, things like that.
I think as far as
or scans to like show signs of cancer earlier or things like that. Just something along those lines.
That's how AI is going to help a lot. So I think with what you're saying, I don't necessarily agree that it's only going to improve a little bit. I think once AI systems, once we perfect the technology, but I'm pretty sure it's a thing that
in terms of TV though, it can only get so good. Like a TV can start to integrate more things like voice commands and stuff like that, but it can get to a point where a screen is so good it's a screen, or a projection is a projection.
It's almost a window.
Yeah, and like it'll get to a point where the next level to improve it is going to cost that much and be so inaccessible. It's almost not worth doing it.
I don't like to think like that because I think you just limit your imagination really, because you've got to think like
there's always something else.
When the first phone came out, because it worked where it was like all shared lines, so everyone in a neighbourhood would pick up their phone and everyone is on the line. That's just how that worked, and then that has progressed to now where we're connected through satellites in the sky.
Like I'm not saying like there won't be a huge progression in entertainment systems. It's just Steph has said what we think the next will be. I think at some point, like, you know, we see other sci films and like a screen will just pop up out of a little thing like that.
Yeah.
I think we will absolutely get to that point, which is a massive step from where we are now. However, I think that big step is after other big leaps in other areas.
Yeah, there's a limit to certain systems and certain technologies, but I think what could happen could just be something so out of what we're aware of now.
True.
It could just be like, wow, like this is the future.
One cool thing I am slightly looking forward to in the future, near future, is foldable phones. Because I see, remember the old Motorola flip phones?
Razr.
Yeah.
I was tempted to get that on pre-order until I saw how much it was.
How much was it?
So on EE with, I think it was 60 gigabyte of data, it was £100 a month. And the lowest contract per month price was £96 a month.
No, that's
Total
not
cost of the phone. is.
£1,500 or dollars. I don't think that's pounds.
I mean, flip phones would be so cool, but yeah, just unfolding them has this thing to see. Just like
End of the phone call.
Gimmick.
Yeah,
Defo gimmick.
It
it's
is,
one of those
but
things that no one's gonna ever need, but it's like it's a cool thing.
It's also not a gimmick in the same way how I have my wallet. Like, it's thinner and smaller than everyone else's wallet, which makes it practical.
That
for
is
me.
cool though. Like, should we just show the camera this? It's like, that's pretty useful.
I could just show mine's a bit better, but
Go on then.
But then yours is bigger. It's more bulky.
it's a little thicker. If I can get it out of my damn pocket. So it's got the 2 levers to hammer cards out.
Yeah.
Don't steal my information.
But like literally, so
Am
Like
I going to have
this.
to blur that out now?
it's literally smaller, more compact, fits in the pocket better, and that's what the foldable phone will be. Instead of having a phone which is that big, it'll be half the size, but you can still flip it up and get the same amount of phone screen. So I don't think it is a gimmick.
I think
But it's gonna be thicker though, isn't it, to get the same amount of phones being.
The rays are still quite thin, and the thing is, like, I don't care about my phone being that thin. It's just more annoying. It's the landscape like that. That footprint there bothers me more than if it was double thickness.
Oh, because you have the choice to make it smaller if you want.
Because then, yeah, like,
Yeah.
because the thickness isn't as much as of an issue as that amount of space
See,
there.
I'm the complete opposite. I like having the big boy in my hand, just how it is. That is.
I do like big phones, but also when it's in my pocket, I don't want it to be big, which is why I like foldable phones, and I don't see it as a gimmick.
I think it's an exciting technology, the fact that we've got foldable screens now. I think because it's so new, it just looks bulky. Like, it reminds me of like how the old phones started.
Yeah.
What will be exciting, because imagine you've got.
Have you seen, what is it, Samsung's new TV? Or LG? And like, it's literally the thickness of a credit card.
Yeah, like they're getting it down.
No.
Yeah, like, you know, the stand that's where it's got all the main electronics,
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
actual TV, for the majority of it, is as thick as a card.
They're getting it down to like
That's-
paper thin now.
What LED is that? That's,
I'm not sure. It literally just fraction. I think it's fraction bigger than a card.
I mean, have you seen OLED TVs?
Yeah.
OLED TVs. They're just so damn sexy. I want one, but the price tag just scares me.
Have you seen the concept though of like a phone that is a watch type thing? So
Yes.
rather than your pocket, imagine the screen and it folds around your wrist, so you're just doing whatever on that, and then you need to make a call, so you just pull it off, like, you know, one of those things that you snap on or something.
Yeah.
So you can just pull off your phone, you know what you're saying, and just snap it back on. So it's a watch, it's a phone, because essentially it's like the phone. Our watches are the phones. We wear watches because it's a fashion statement and they're cool, but our phones essentially make us cyborgs. It's like that thing that Musk was saying, where the only thing that is slowing us down is our connection to the device.
I completely disagree. So there's a thing called the fuck is the term for it?
Interface was the word I was looking for. The interface is slow.
So the thing about being connected to everything, and so I forgot what the word's called, but basically there's a word for it, and that you always worry about the next generation. So like, a lot of people say that phones are really bad for you. It takes you out of the world, takes you out from socialising. In like the early 19 whatever, there was a publication in a newspaper which said, I'm worried about the next future generations. It's a scientific journal, because too many people are reading magazines and books. It takes them out of society, which is exactly the same as phones now, and it really doesn't.
That's an interesting
No,
point.
because it's like it's more helping because you get more information to grasp. in your
Exactly,
hand,
but
so-
people used to go around all the time with books in their bag and read it
Mhm.
instead of necessarily talking to their family or their friends, and everyone at the time saw that as a problem.
There was this big fear about people spending too much time reading novels.
Yeah, and that's exactly the same now, but
And now
just,
people
with,
encourage it.
just with the phone.
Mm.
And
Yep.
so I don't necessarily agree with the fact that we're too immersed in it, because
Oh, no, that's not what I meant. I mean, our integration with the device.
Oh,
we're
okay,
gonna
that's
get
what you
more-
mean.
We're going to connect more seamlessly with it. So I don't know if you know anything about Neuralink, and it's the sort
Yeah.
of things that they're working on now to connect your brain to your devices.
See, I would love that.
I'd love it and hate it.
Yeah.
Because that goes. Imagine if they perfected that, so you could literally have your mind in a video game. You're feeling everything. You are a
I
virtual
want
avatar.
like to feel everything.
No.
You're playing cards, goes into cardiac arrest. And like,
Some little bastard quick scope.
Because then you have like the actual kids running about the game, you get to kill them. That was so bad.
That's an interesting one about technology though, because so think how far video games have progressed in our lifetime. So hopefully there's still a bit of time left in our lifetimes, but just think, in the current trajectory and the way things are developing now, in our lifetime, we could see games that are almost indistinguishable from reality.
Honestly, like some of the games you play now, like I'll see like the graphics are just so insane. It could be like a film. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just like wow. When you get it on like proper like 4K displays with the right internet, incredible. Like
just the frame rate as well.
Yeah, and it's incredible.
Machines are just getting faster and faster, and that's another way AI is going to help, because it's systems that are going to be integrated into what's already available, making it more efficient.
Oh, here's a quick question. So you know how like the game consoles were like each when they got released. So it was like the PS2 over the original Xbox,
yeah.
and then it was the 360 won over the PS3,
yeah,
and then PS4 won against Xbox One. Who do you think is going to win next?
Well, have you played on the Xbox One S?
Not the S, no.
It's insane.
S or X? Because they had
sorry.
the Project Scorpion, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah. It's insane.
What about Scorpion?
Project Scorpion, that's what they called it before they released it. It was the Xbox One X.
Having played the new, updated, refreshed Xbox, I think Xbox is going to be better than PlayStation. Because it is so good.
Also, the new Xbox, I don't think they're releasing a name for it yet. Project Scarlet, that's what it is.
What's with these weird project names?
Also,
it's Project Scorpion, the console's called S, okay?
like, you know, all the Xbox like only games, they're releasing it on the old Xboxes, so it's like, they've kind of messed that up because no one's going to buy it because they can just get all the new releases on the other Xbox.
I guess they're just trying to maximise sales.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing.
Because they can.
Also, I really want there to be a Nintendo Switch Pro.
Oh, you've got a Switch, haven't you?
Oh, fucking incredible.
Have you got Brawl?
No, not yet. I need to buy it.
Bring it here. Let's play Brawl.
I need to buy it.
It's been a while since we smashed.
I know. It's not called Brawl anymore either. It's Smash Brothers. Brawl was just the one on the way.
Yeah, Super Smash Bros.
I can live with that.
What I was going to say, yeah. Going back to your question about tech, actually, Marquez has done something very similar. MKBHD. What's the next thing to like be a flop, or like just to not carry on? So like, you know, like curved TVs. A couple of years ago, absolutely.
3D TVs too. That's a gimmick you don't see anymore.
Yeah,
that was pointless.
Absolutely, like everyone's like, oh, curved TVs, it's so good. No one makes them anymore.
Yeah.
What do you think the next thing is going to be? Because that could be foldable phones. They just might never work.
Yeah, it's just one of the things. It's cool to have, but you don't need.
Or like 3D films.
Yeah, true.
I never go to a cinema and watch it in 3D now.
No, there's no point.
I love seeing a 3D film, but I just got used to not seeing it because at the time I was with someone who couldn't see 3D. I definitely think foldable phones will be one. Will be one. But
really?
I think it could be, or in its current form, foldable screens are a fantastic innovation for the technology. But I think the way because I just don't think you need a screen on the back and the front. So like, however.
No, I don't like that concept. That concept is shit. I prefer it like the Galaxy Fold or the Razer. I don't like the one where it folds back round itself and it's just back. That doesn't work for me.
I was thinking about it because it's like I wouldn't like the fact that as I'm touching a screen on a screen.
Yeah.
Because I always try and avoid putting my fingers on that.
I completely agree. Like I like the Galaxy Fold. It just hasn't quite worked out well. But that's because it's the first iteration of a foldable phone.
Oh, because it's going to be all that material. It's just going to suck up fingerprints, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we're in a state of surveillance anyway. So like we can shit ourselves all we want about it, but we live with it. We rely on it, and it benefits us. The state of surveillance. So it's like, because like, unless you're some sort of serial killer or you need to lay low, it's just not a pleasant feeling to know that you're being watched at all times. But we are all sheep in a sense to the people, the elites that we'll never know, who run our lives because of circumstances.
It's a thing that I don't get.
It's a fucked up world
as well. Why is it that every year a new iPhone gets released, everyone needs to have it?
Because that's marketing. It's a brand.
What's the fucking point? I can't grab that concept.
It's like
it's just like
when an artist releases a new album, everyone's like, I gotta hear it. It's like you're part of that trend. This is why brands are so amazing.
Some of it will be it's come at a good time when people's contract renews.
Mm.
That'd be a lot of things.
Yeah, that
So-
I get.
So like
So,
Laura's contract just renewed, so she decided to switch from a Samsung to the new iPhone 11.
But say for instance, someone just bought the iPhone 11 when it came out, and then 2 months later, iPhone 11s, whatever came out, it's like, oh, I want that one, and just throw away that phone, get that one instead. Why?
I don't get it, but for some people, they're all about the image, aren't they?
Yeah, if you've
It's
got
that unnecessary flex. I don't like.
if you've got the money, why not?
Mm.
Like because
But then also why, like
because
the,
people
the,
make
the
money off
improvements
being
from
relevant.
the
don't they?
11 to from the like XR or whatever phone it was is not that like there are improvements. It's not hugely.
What was that one where they released it and the only sort of real feature that they could talk about was the fact that there were these lifelike emojis that like follow your face and they can open their mouth and stuff. And that was like the only difference with that phone.
I think that was like the budget version of the iPhone, wasn't it?
It was also when Apple announced they're going to have dark mode on their phone, and then everyone on Android was sort of like, we've had that for like 2 years.
Yeah, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is so cool!" Like we've had this for years.
Yeah.
I've always preferred Android. I've had one iPhone.
I don't like hating on Apple and iPhones. Actually, they're really good phones. They are like.
The only thing I like about them is sometimes the cameras, but there are Android phones that have way better cameras in the same way.
Their cameras are really good.
Like the Samsung Note 11 Plus, was it 10?
Yeah, the one
that
thing-
camera just blows
The other
the
one thing I don't actually understand about the iPhone 11, it won best display or best screen like this year. They use Samsung displays, and so that confused me a little bit. But
It comes down to preference at the end of the day. Because like the difference between systems, softwares, whatever, isn't huge.
like for me, in the past, I haven't got an iPhone purely because of how expensive it is.
I don't like buying into the gimmick and the trend because a lot of people buy it just because it's trendy.
Especially now when you can get phones like the OnePlus,
Mm-hmm.
which are cheaper and can do just as good a job
Yes.
as an iPhone and
Yes.
Samsung. Like for
Plus,
the last,
the freedom you get with Android as well, you're not always confined to this one layout, you can just do
Oh,
whatever you want on it.
that is my biggest hate about Apple. It's
It is a nice layout,
I want to
though.
put I want to put music onto my phone. With my phone, I can just literally hook it up, put it in. Doesn't matter where I've got the track from. With Apple, it has to go through iTunes. I fucking hate that. Why? And like sharing anything,
I don't know.
it's just not compatible. To me, it's just sort of, it's like they're deliberately rubbing your nose in it. It's like, you will buy our products, we know you will, and we're deliberately going to make it difficult for you to integrate with anything else.
the thing is,
Apple doesn't care.
it's as you said before, it's all down to the marketing. It's like never like a conscious decision. Because I've got the Galaxy Buds. The only reason why I got them is because they kept getting advertised because I have a Samsung, and then you're just like, oh yeah, it'll go well. Fuck it, I've got a Samsung, I might as well get them.
Mhm.
And that's AirPods in a nutshell. Like the original AirPods, like other wireless head earphones are better because they just sit in your ear and you can hear everything around you, which in my opinion I don't like. Whereas I could have got the Bose. Like which ones have you got?
Jabra.
Like I could have got those, and I don't know why I didn't.
See,
I just got the Samsung ones because I have a Samsung.
after having these headphones for over a year now, I'm sort of like, I kind of wish I got something a bit more, I'd say high end. You can, even though these
Yeah.
were like 100 and something quid, like I feel like they still got the wrong ones because they felt too mechanical and clunky. And I was like, I was kind of that seamless kind of feel.
Yeah.
But
I like yours though. They're
Yeah.
quite cool. I'd say what you mean about the chunky, but like when I first saw yours, I immediately preferred them to Apple. Like,
oh yeah, I don't like you having like two weird cum stains coming out of your ears.
just fucking drips.
Yeah. What's that movie with was it Ben Stiller and Cameron Diaz, and sort of like he
Ben
has
Stiller.
The gel on it,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I need some. God, could you imagine? Don't go on then.
So following on from your question, you talking about is it fucked?
Is the future fucked?
I think yes, because of the population. So my question is, how do we solve the problem, which is the population?
Liquidise the homeless.
And to put it into perspective, 92 years ago the population was 2 billion. It is now 7.7 billion in 2019.
But are we overpopulated, or are we just not using our resources efficiently?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I think we are. Well, the thing is, which is why I was like, I wasn't sure how to answer Dan's initial question, was because if we turn it around in terms of the environment and the methods it will take to do that, then yes. However, at present, the lifestyle of what it is in England, America, all the wealthy countries, that is not sustainable at all. Especially when you especially when you factor in all the countries which can't do that economically. We're trying to make them like us. African countries, South American countries which are less economically developed, we want to help those countries to be more self-sufficient and people to just be healthier, happier and whatnot. But that means making it more like us. As in, we eat too much, we have too much waste, we use too much in terms of electricity, which creates more and more carbon. And then it gets to the fact, let's say we use our resources in a smart way, there's still the point that we're reproducing. That will never stop. So even if we become the most efficient people on the planet in terms of carbon, consumption, usage, we are still populating the earth more and more and more. At what point does it become to the room taken up for the food we need is being taken up for housing for the people we're populating?
Right.
I've got an answer.
That's the biggest question for me.
Okay, my answer, I think that is where vertical farming is going to play a huge benefit. Because if you can move, like let's say a lot of the land is taken up to produce food. If we can maximise the amount of food that we're getting from a small space, it means that the land...
That's what I said. If we're at our most efficient, i.e. vertical farming, there's going to come a point where the ratio will be passed for the amount of homes for the land we need.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking... But like...
I'm talking like hundreds of years in the future.
Yeah, hundreds of years in the future, I think... you've got to think though, if we make it hundreds of years in the future, the way we're going, we're talking about moving members of the population off planet.
That's what I'm saying. So
that's a reality. So
is that the best way to deal with the population?
I think it's
just wait until we get to that.
It's not waiting,
or do something about it now.
What can you do? The one-child policy in China doesn't work. That kind of thing doesn't work.
But what about if they did it wrong?
They definitely did it wrong.
What about if there is a childbirthing policy which does work? This is what I'm like. What is the best method?
The bottom line is it's a pyramid. There has to be more youth on the bottom, less old people on the top. But that only works because you have to have people that are contributing. There has to be more of that. Yeah. And there has to be less people dependent on others. That's how the system works, because otherwise the pyramid's on its head, so things just collapse.
Like China?
Yeah.
So what if you did a childbirthing policy like you had 20 years of the max amount people can give birth to without having like financial penalties or whatever like they did in China? For like, let's say the example, 20 years you're only allowed a maximum of 4 children, and then after that it's 3 children for another 20 years, and then it's 2 children for like 5 years, 1 children for 2 years, and then it goes back to 3 children for 30 years. I'm nowhere near clever enough to work out the maths for that, but you're not suddenly going 5 children per family down to 1. It's fucked. You're going 4 children, which is very sustainable number, because for a decrease in population, it's like 1.5 children.
Maybe that's where AI systems can play a big help as well, because that could quite easily predict that kind of thing.
That's with that maths. And someone probably could right now, but that's the thing. Like, is maybe just a childbirthing policy the correct answer, but it just needs to be done in a more mathematical way?
You never know. We could run into serious infertility problems. So, like the toxins that come out of plastic, which is in all of us because of the way we're polluted, the way the food chain works. We all have these plastic toxicants inside our bodies, which have been linked to infertilities.
Or is it just too late to do anything about the population?
See, I would need to know like statistics of like what's the average amount of children each couple's having in a year, or like certain areas or whatnot, to be able to think of is...
That's what I mean. Like, I don't have the stats to know that, or the math brain to work out how the numbers would work out. you just never.
See, I'm on the mindset of like having a family limit and how many children you can have could possibly work, but then it's sort of like back to like basic human rights. Are you allowed to dictate how many children are allowed to
exactly.
have?
That's the morality is a massive question on it as well. Like you should be allowed to have your own child. That should be a basic thing, but also by having children, if you're putting everyone on the planet at risk. Because as well, that's the thing. Like a human can, like let's say just a woman can give birth between the ages of, let's say 18 till 35.
Okay, so for instance, imagine you got to a point where, again, you said like we're at peak efficientness when it comes to food and resources and everything. And then if we're like we have like no escape to different planet for like to expand in there. Say for instance we've reached the amount of human population we can now. We've taken up the less amount of space we can for resources and food. We're perfectly sustaining. But if we keep going that way, it's like would it be worth saying then there was going to have to be a child cap until we're able to expand?
Well, that's exactly what I mean. But then by putting a straightforward cap, you get what happened in China, which wouldn't work. Which is why a decrease over a long amount of time. But the very very being one child only lasts a period of 2 years. But then will that work because people can just not have a kid in that 2 years?
Yeah, but in that scenario,
then have it 5 years later.
China isn't at peak efficientness. So if we come to the point where we're like we are confirmed we are at peak efficiency, there's nothing else we can do.
That still won't work because economically it won't work. Because the pyramid which Dan was on about, you've got to look at independence and non-independence. So a dependent is someone who is over the age of 18 and not retired. So they're the people who earn the money and then they pay their jobs pays for taxes, which pay for the non-dependents. That tax money pays for non-dependents in terms of medicine, schooling, or pensions. Medicine, again the same thing. So that middle section needs to be earning enough money to provide for the non-dependents at the bottom of the age pyramid and at the top. Now again, as that moves on, if you've got a small bit at the bottom, you've then got around, let's say, 1 million people who have got to try and pay for 2 million people up here if you just cut out people as a birthing gap,
right?
Which wouldn't work economically.
So the pyramid's still going to keep going, but it's always going to get bigger and bigger.
That's what I mean. So it needs to be a gradual. If that is the thing, it needs to be a gradual birthing thing where it's like 4 kids for 20 years, 3 kids for like what?
So you can just rebuild the pyramid.
So the pyramid, it will form like it will kind of more conform to the pyramid. It won't be such a cut off.
So instead of like one dry pyramid just getting bigger and bigger, it'll be you make it smaller, but then making it out again.
So instead of it being a big pyramid like that, it'll gradually go.
Yeah, okay, it will narrow it. Okay, right.
Theoretically.
I think the way it's going to go, because let's be honest, when faced with this question, there's never going to come a point where the world will agree on what is the population we want to get to. Because it's not just as a society, but as a species, that's just not really the question, because it's just natural to keep expanding, keep growing, and the way we're going, we are a virus that is just continuing to expand. So I think the way it's going to go, to be honest, I think we'll just keep going, and I think we're going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and we'll just keep going further out, and then we'll start sending people out into the stars.
I think one thing which doesn't help as well is medicine, weirdly enough, because it's making people live longer, which means there's more people because they're not dying, and also we're more proficient at creating more children. Whether it's you get less stillbirths or you get less people dying, like mothers dying, which is obviously a really good thing, absolutely, but it's just also adds to the population because there's less reasons why we're dying. And then also another thing which is like IVF, people who can't have children, suicide infertility, can now have children.
2 things I want to say.
Sometimes.
One cool thing is that in Hawaii, if you reach the age of 100, you officially get making a stamp. You officially like a postage stamp for that country. Really cool.
That's cool.
Second thing was I was reading something the other day where it was sort of like how like years and years ago when vaccines were a thing, if someone was to get pricked by anything metal, they're dead. That's it. There's no coming back. Yet when we get pricked by something, because we got vaccines, we can survive it.
Yeah.
But why are people still so stupid that they don't want vaccines? When literally, if you were to get pricked by one thing, your life's gone.
Let's not talk about anti-vaxxers because we're going on a rant about them. But
Yeah.
That's conspiracy propaganda. That is a whole other topic.
So
I've got
the
a
thing. The thing is with IVF as well. Like I don't kind of like IVF. I get why people want their own children. It makes sense. It's kind of like the only reason why people are around to procreate. That's why we're here.
Mhm.
But like when there's so many people who need adopting,
Yeah, that's true.
IVF just seems a bit.
It's a tough one though because it's such a personal thing.
It absolutely.
And then
is.
it's like it's also really horrible for the kids.
Yeah.
I don't really think much about the concept of having kids because it's scary, but I'd love the idea of adopting one.
I'd never have my own kid. I'd adopt.
I'd love the idea of
Really?
that.
Yeah.
Would you be?
Why not? I would have my own kid.
Because I feel like a lot of people think a kid is a possession. Hear me out. So like when you get people talking, they're like, "Oh, I want to be my own flesh and blood." Like,
And
so
then
it's not yours. It's not a possession. It's a living thing.
I get like what I hate about that situation is then it's almost like the next smartphone because then it's like picture of my baby, picture of my baby, picture of my baby.
No, I wouldn't. Do
I
that.
fucking hate.
Yeah.
I think there is a real problem with people. Like I don't get why people want to take a picture of their child and put it on the internet. Why does it matter? Social media is there for you to have conversation.
I don't understand. No, I think that's fine. They're just there.
It scares the shit out of me though because it's like
It's just like back in the day when you take a photo and you put it in a frame in your house.
that's in the house though, but because like the internet's a different kettle of fish. It's
But
like
if you don't want
like,
to see that,
when you
though,
have a frame photo, you have it. You purposely get done up to have this one thing be up there forever. With the internet, it's sort of like there's my child again.
It's completely desensitized.
You just
yeah, it's like
I don't see an issue with it though. Like if they want it on their social media, it's like a document of their life.
if you're doing that, are you really present?
Of course you
can
can.
get-
Yeah, but you're not doing it every minute of the day. It might be like 30 seconds in a day you do that. There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
I think it's a weird one because like with
It's just a way of
with me-
documenting the kid's life growing up.
was me.
Yeah, there's that, but then there's sort of like the whole thing is like I have a child, look at my child. I have a child, look at my child.
I feel like that's how we think not having children being on the outside, but I don't think the mothers who are doing that think that at all. It's just I'm loving life with my baby. I'm going to take a moment to remember this.
So with me being an uncle for the past year now, that's when it sort of became more relevant. Is because I know my sister's baby daddy didn't want the kid being put online, anything.
Because of nonsense.
Just anything, mate. Absolutely anything. I think, we've not really spoken about it, but I think we probably would think in the same way. It's like, why do people need to know? Like, this is my child. Why do they need to know? Why do I need someone to see that my child is happy? Why do I need someone to see that my child is taking its first steps?
That's fair, but then look at it this way. Like, let's say me and Laura moved to London or I don't know another country to live. Whatever. Let's say we had a kid. You know what my nan's like. She'd want to see that. I think an aspect for it is as well showing
in that
friends
situation,
and family.
you won't be in that situation where you can just casually just like go around the house and like here's my child sort of thing. Like you get to spend time
Again,
with
that
it.
is-
It'll be with pictures because you're so far away.
But yeah, you'd be
That's
sending them
understandable.
personally to her. You wouldn't be sharing
Yeah.
it on a platform.
It's not to be like whole world look at this thing I created.
True.
Sort of thing.
But maybe parents are just proud, so they want to share it as well.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
nothing wrong with that.
You can't
but
rock
I'm talking about the people who like do it like every fucking day.
Every day.
Yeah,
That's their
like,
life,
Just,
though,
just
isn't
the
it?
constant.
The sad
Okay.
truth of it is that's their life. That's their little 15 minutes of fame in a way.
But every day.
Yeah,
I mean,
literally.
15
No, but that's
every
your routine. That child is your life. I think that's the sad truth of it. Maybe that's what bothers me more is that
Children do ruin your life, and also
day. Do look at there as well.
and also make your life.
Yeah.
It's like it's a completely different life to have. It ruins one life, but then opens up an
I hope
unbelievable
we're not going to be
another life.
offending any parents with this one.
Fuck 'em.
All right.
And I was the one being nice about them, but fuck 'em. You.
Okay. So
That's gonna be them.
it's just fucking staring at me. Right. Well, that took a bit of a tangent. Population. I think we might be.
I don't have time to be watching podcasts. It's fine.
Just to sort of wrap up your question though, about population, I think we might be I think we might still be in the category of people shitting themselves about people reading novels. It's relevant to us now, and it's something that it's a challenge that we've not yet had to face properly.
But that's my biggest worry is it's because that's the thing. Like the reason why the world's in a state is because of the population. If you half the population, the world wouldn't have the carbon crisis as bad.
I've got to disagree with that. Population plays a part in it. But
no. It is the only factor. If there was no people on the planet, there'd be no pollution.
But okay, that's true. But
if you half the population, logically, as long as it's half in England, America, and all the others, it would half the pollution rate.
Okay, right, but on that logic, if there were no people, do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. But right, let's say population has obviously played a huge part in that, but there's also the fact that when people made cars, no one was asking the questions about pollution. When people made plastics, no one was asking. All we've been doing for the past 100 plus years is
not asking,
create, consume, profit. It's just all that. It's a conveyor belt of we want to make money. It's a selfish system of I need, I want, I'll take. But no one. It's not until now, because we have to, that people have started asking, should we? It's that. So I think if the world had been more conscious from the start, and everyone was morally lovely, and we lived in the Disney fairy tale world where everyone's good to each other, then I don't think the world would be as fucked. If with the same population.
But that's the thing. It almost didn't matter because you have a car which causes pollution when it's first made, but then because there wasn't the amount of people or there wasn't the accessibility to people, it didn't matter to create pollution.
Yeah.
It's only because there is now how many millions of cars on the road that we're at this point. Like I say, like the less people there is, the less food you need, the less electricity you need, the less gas, fuel, everything. The less you need is if you reduce the population.
So what you're saying is Thanos was right. Yeah.
That's why he was such a good villain, though, because he's so relatable and actually correct. Just he was going about it the wrong way. Like his ideology was spot on, but that doesn't justify mass murdering people.
Okay, I'm glad you wrapped that one up for it. I was about to say I'm worried.
But how would you go about halving the amount of people on there?
Like I say,
surprise!
Like over the course of the year, with like a birthing thing, I'm not suggesting killing people.
Okay.
I want to get that out there. I just think there needs to be a way to decrease population, because with that, the carbon effect will naturally reduce.
Have we got too many people now then? So say if we just stuck with this number,
I think do you
think we should reduce?
We've got too many people living the lifestyle people living in England. If we was to live the lifestyle more of like a less economically developed country, but then no one would like that because like it's not good. So like I don't know, if people instead of having 2 cars for every house only had 1 for just a small start, which often doesn't work because the people often have 2 cars for a reason. It would help if people ate less meals. Like we don't need to eat the size meals we do. Also, if everyone turned vegan, the beef industry is one of the biggest carbon polluters on the planet.
Methane actually, which is worse than carbon.
Or methane, but then again,
the cows burping,
like the cows stuff like that,
is worse than playing.
If we just stop like breeding cows now and was like, once these ones are gone, no more beef, it'd be a lot better off. They wouldn't need the deforestation in Amazon to make room for more beef, so that means more trees could suck up more carbon dioxide. The area of farming lands could be repopulated with trees.
Isn't the Amazon rainforest like called the lungs of the planet or something? Because it sucks up the most amount of...
It plays a big role, sure, because there's a lot of trees, but what actually has more benefit is there's this thing, what is it? I'm not sure exactly what kind of the name for the plants and stuff, but there's these things called diatoms, which are basically little plants that photosynthesize. Their blooms are so big in the ocean you can see it from space. You can literally see these monumental, like most of the ocean green, imagine that, and that is all bacteria. That is all these little diatoms basically photosynthesizing, sucking in CO2, releasing oxygen. So that's planetary, and you can actually see so I think if there's like certain weather conditions, you get these blooms and you can actually see the effects. because it's so monumental, and we're talking microscopic type shit. I know that their body, so what they're made of is actually quite a hard shell, whatever they're made of, because they're in such abundance. I want to say chalk, but I feel like I'm wrong when I say chalk, but I'm pretty sure there's like geographical rocks and landmarks from like how these things have been doing their thing for thousands of years, because there's so many of them that build up in these layers, and it's like trapped carbon and stuff. So where we're getting our coal and oil from, it's mainly bacteria. So when you're burning your coal, don't think that you've just switched on your T-Rex. It's mainly the bacteria that have sucked most of that out, and that's then what we're burning now.
Also, one thing as well, no matter what happens, the world's going to heat up because it's a natural process every 10,000 years. We're in an ice age right now because there's ice caps on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
We go, like, it naturally heats up to the point there is no ice.
Actually, there's a question. Is there a way to
anyway, we're just speeding it up.
reverse that?
Yeah.
Like, ice caps, mate, is there a way to
No, because
To refreeze the ice.
I think it's a 10,000 year cycle of, or is it 20,000? Might be 20,000. It's either 10 or 20,000 year cycle of the planet being in an ice age and being not in an ice age. So at some point the ice caps on the planet will melt, even if humans weren't on the planet. And then it would go through ages with no ice, and then it would turn into a global ice ball, and then it would slowly thaw out. It's a natural process which happens.
So recent findings
We're just speeding it up
now have said that
dramatically.
our carbon level is the highest it has been since like millions of years. We are now at that point where we have that much CO2 in the atmosphere that it hasn't been like this for a very fucking long time.
The danger is that we're going to burn a hole in the atmosphere.
I mean, what does that mean? Like, the atmosphere is what, gas and stuff? What
Protects us.
Yeah,
without the atmosphere.
yeah, but like the hole in the ozone, that's not a thing anymore. It's not really, like, I don't know where that came from or where that went really, but we're just a bubble of gas, really.
Yeah.
But what does that mean when
if
it
you
says
lose,
there's a
if
hole
you lose
in that
the
bubble of
atmosphere and
How'd
the
you
ozone will die,
how do you lose that? Solar radiation.
heating it up.
You
Too
reckon?
much, yeah. That's what that is. You heat it up too much and it burns a hole through the atmosphere.
What all the air gas would just escape?
The planet would get to the point where it's that hot, it would kind of just tail off the planet to the point we'd lose it.
But aren't we protected because of the magnetic spin?
Well,
because it's the solar rays.
at some point, the magnetic fields have got a switch anyway.
Yeah.
Which is we're another
I think
catastrophe.
Are we moving into the territory of we don't really know what we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. But the you know the poles switch, don't you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so I don't know how often it is, but the poles. I'm not sure if it's switched or they can move to anywhere on the planet. I can never remember.
Is that proven?
I think it's proven. You can see it in the rocks, the little iron in the rocks. Over 10,000s and 10,000s of years, the iron will be pointing one way, and suddenly in the next couple of 10,000 years gap, it's going to go the other way. And I found it's because the poles reversed. So south became north, north became south.
That's interesting.
And I read something, I think it was just a shitty article, that the poles could be reversed so it's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean or something. But I didn't think that was possible. I just thought it was north and south switched. But we're going into the realms where we have no clue. We are chatting verbal nonsense.
Yeah, like. Yeah, I guess we've covered future predictions and stuff like.
Is there any final happy future predictions?
That we figure it all out and everything that's relevant and scary to us now is no longer an issue in the future.
I was watching a video from Corridor Digital, and they had these Iron Man jetpack things where they had the two things in their arms and one in the back.
Yeah.
And then they've made the prototypes for it before was like some big clunky things. They made it smaller. So you imagine, like about 30 years time, we could actually have like personal jetpacks. Now like we've got hoverboards now. There's mobile wheels.
Right, because that's not polluting.
Yeah, but that was the thing I was about to go into. So they're designing these these air turbine jet things where there's no spinning rotations in there. He's literally just compressed air to go straight through it.
Cool.
But the only reason why it's not a thing now is because every time they test it, it just keeps combusting because of how much air is going through it, just heating it up and blowing it up. But imagine when they do find out that tech, it's just literally just
It's
Jetpacks.
always going to be
fucking
recreational. Personal jetpacks, things like that, flying cars. It's always going to be recreational because I don't think maybe AI systems could help, but like people just flying around the sky, there's too many health risks. Because like people are stupid.
I mean, how
like
do you?
people just start dropping out the sky? Like
Yeah.
that. Like
I mean, if people are stupid enough to modify a drone and fly it over
that
Heathrow,
was exactly the point I
or
was going to make.
Gatwick or whichever one it was.
Dro-
Someone's gonna fly.
Drones
drones
came
around.
out, everyone had one, and then like everyone's doing some amazing stuff with it, but then the laws come in. But it's necessary.
It is
because it's such a
necessary.
powerful piece of technology.
Laws are there for a reason.
Yeah, like
Unfortunately.
you can't just give someone.
When did I get old? Laws are here for a reason.
You know, you never young.
Jesus.
You wearing a jumper. You basic.
It's
you,
cold.
You look like my granddad though.
Your granddad's a very nice man.
He is.
Can we just like Photoshop call and just have like a grey area?
Do you know why I put this on? I was wearing a Wolves top. I was like, I can't do a podcast in a Wolves top, can I?
I'm glad you didn't.
Exactly. And now I'm getting ripped wearing a jumper.
Alright then, cool.
Right, so that has been verbal nonsense.
That has been about an
Just
hour as well.
Chatted shit
Yeah,
the whole time.
it's-
Relevant shit though.
Yeah.
This time.
Kind of.
Did we wrap it up? That's it. I think that was interesting. We hit some cool points.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of worked though. That dynamic of we've each got a question.
Yeah.
A little few tangents, but
The tangents were good though, I think. Is that a good way to wrap it up before you press stop on the camera? Do we have an outro?
nah.
Thanks for watching.
This has been verbal nonsense.
Tune in next week.
This is as less American as you can get, the better, really, isn't it?
Yeah.